Today's video is coming to you because of a comment that I got on one of my videos recently, and I thought it was interesting. It's something that I've seen come up a lot, and I wanted to sort of just talk about it with you guys, and you can also give me your experience and your ideas after the video. Please, I ask you to do this. There's probably a headline that you saw here, like the title of the video. Please watch the video before commenting. I always get cracked up that people have such short attention spans that they will comment before, because you'll see that they commented very particularly against the headline, but they didn't actually watch the video. Like, don't be one of those people on the internet. Like, listen to what the person's gonna say before you decide to just mouth vomit, or more like with your fingers. Anyway, today's message was from Asa. Commented recently on a video where I was talking about a young guy who was winning lots of medals, and he was really excited. He's a young guy, he's really excited about trying to get his blue belt. That was his big focus, right? And I just told him, I was like, you're doing everything really well. Stay focused. He's only been trained for 10 months. Keep focusing on training and you'll be fine. You'll get your blue belt. It'll be fine. Well, Asa says, when you understand capitalism and realize the coach is making money off of you, you'll realize they hold you back to maximize profits. You probably can tell what I think about that by that the way I said that part. But Asa, thanks for the message. But I've seen that pop up a lot, right? Where people say that they're holding you back from money. And I mean, the whole idea of capitalism, I mean, capitalism has its problems, but the reason why you probably have gyms all around that you can train at, which is awesome, because it wasn't that way for a long time, is because of capitalism, right? But I digress. But the maximizing profits to hold people back, I don't necessarily agree with that. It's possible, but I'll give you some things to think about, maybe a couple ideas to chew on that might maybe steer it in a different direction. Because when you said that, Asa, I was thinking about my experience with gyms that I know for a fact are more monetarily driven. I'll give you my gym as an example. I hold my students at belts for a little bit longer than maybe is normal. Not excessively long, but a little bit. But I don't do it because I'm trying to maximize profits, right? I'm doing it because I don't want them to move up to a rank prematurely where it destroys their confidence. Anybody that's been involved in combat sports of any sort understand that confidence is a big deal. It creates a certain momentum to your ability, and it can unlock a difference in you that's really big, right? You could take someone who has let's say that this person has this much skill, and then you got another person, and they're both identical in skill, but you nurture a person in a certain way to give them more confidence, and their skill will jump. And it's not because they're so much better, it's because they have more confidence in what they're doing. I've experienced this in my own game. I've seen it happen in my students numerous times. And so you've got to be very careful with this. If you watch a lot of for instance, MMA fighters, boxers, things like that, where they have their records, a lot of times the managers, if they're intelligent, will be very intelligent about the way that they position the fights. You're not going to, even if the guy was technically sound and could beat whomever, they're probably going to try to work them up, with competition, starting at sort of a lower tier competition, just getting some fights, getting some ring time, and then slowly trying to increase the difficulty until they get to a person who might beat the crap out of them, or they might beat the crap out of them. It's going to be a good fight. But you want to do that slowly because you want to make sure that person comes into those tough fights with some momentum behind them so they have some confidence. Because, if you don't have the confidence, it's a killer to your abilities, your game. And so when I was a young jiu-jitsu practitioner, I got promoted really fast, right? Like my belt was got my blue belt really quickly, well within under a year. Got my, from there, less than 2 years later, I was a purple belt. And I was doing fine at each belt, but the problem is the very first tournament, just check this out, the very first tournament as a white belt where I finally was opened up and started really playing around with guard positions and stuff like that, boom, I got bumped to blue belt. So now I went from being this place where I'd worked my way up the pecking order of white belts, right? And I was able to kind of enjoy my time in the sun a little bit, and then boom, I got bumped up to the next level of competition where it gets a little stiffer. And now I was struggling to open my game back up again. And then right once I climbed my way back up to blue belt and was starting to really open my game up, I got bumped to purple belt. And again, we could look at it and think it's kind of cool to get my purple belt so quickly, but I don't, looking back at it, I wasn't ready because I had a lot of struggle at purple belt because there's a lot of holes in my game. And those holes I think would have not been present if I had had a little time as a competitor to stay at those other belt levels a little bit longer to where I could have developed some more confidence in other parts of my game and develop my skills a bit more. Personally, that's the way I believe. And so with my students, I try to hold them back a little bit, not because I'm trying to take more money from them, but because look, I want you to stay here. I want you to win some more competitions. I want you to experience all this stuff for a while and have some confidence before I move you to the next level. And especially with competitors, that's a big deal. With non-competitors, not nearly as important because they're not out there competing. You know, they're just a club person. It's not as important. But a competitor, it's a little bit more important because you want them to have that confidence so they can continue to be successful when they go to the next level. And so that was my idea. So I don't think the kid's coach, Ethan's coach, I don't think he is holding him back because he's trying to maximize profits. I think he's probably doing it because the kid's winning competitions, and he's probably trying to like let him have some time in the sun before he bumps him up to that next level. Now, the flip side, I've seen some gyms that were very monetarily driven. I know this from watching them from the outside in and also having their students come to me and become my members later on and tell me about the practices that went on. And typically speaking, they were much faster to promote. They got stripes faster, they got belts faster and things like that. And that makes sense because if you're going to want someone to stick around and give you more money for the long term, you want to sort of keep them on this conveyor belt system. I mean, if you think about like what we would consider like McDojo, like really bad martial arts gyms that basically are belt factories. Go look at their business practices, right? We've got one in town that's like, it's a huge gym, big, successful business, right? But like, here's an example. I've had no less than like 15 kids over the years come to me and say, I was getting picked on and I was going to this school to learn this particular martial art and I was getting picked on. I already had this belt, whatever, but everybody's beating me up. They come in here, they train for 2 months and they stand up to their bullies, right? Big difference. So again, successful business, but the substance is junk. So again, not my thing. But they promote, dude, belts. It's like you go in there. I actually went in there one time as a parent, right? I said, you know, hey, I want to see how does this all work, whatever. And they like laid out this plan for me, 3 years to black belt, and here's what it is. And basically, it's a belt test every month. I've got to pay X amount of dollars for belts, all this stuff. And it's like just wringing me out of money. Not me, but other people. And I've seen this from jiu-jitsu gyms where, you know, they charge pretty good money for belt test fees and for I've seen people charge for stripes, all this stuff. And they do this whole thing. And again, it might be a good business practice, but then I've rolled with some of these guys when they come to me, or I've rolled at gyms like that were like that, and they're not as tough as some of the gyms where maybe they held them back. And so again, to me, thinking about it, those gyms where you're trying to basically keep people coming, right? Because again, you think about it this way. Think about all the things in society where like, they're trying to keep you going by giving you like little achievement points and stuff. I mean, hell, even my phone, I've got like the Audible app. It gives me achievements for listening to my stuff. Like, hey, you've got a special badge. Good job. Keep listening to our app, right? So there's all these little achievements and things like that. Video games, you get like, I don't know what it is. I don't play video games really that much anymore. But back, like I remember seeing like guys, they play Xbox Live and stuff, and you get all these like little badges and achievement points for doing stuff. They're trying to keep you going by giving you these little things. So to me, that's far more of a sign of like, you know, hey, keep going. We're going to dangle that carrot in front of you. Keep going. Okay, you got this. Now pay us this money. Get this next stripe. Give us a little bit of money, belt money. You know, you get the idea. And so to me, that would be more of a sign to me that the person is being, you know, used to maximize profits. And again, I'm not necessarily always against maximizing profits because again, if you can run a really good, successful gym and serve people on a really deep level, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, because for me, I run a business and I'm trying to make money. And there's a cool thing, like for instance, today, I just paid for like 3 dudes tournaments coming up, right? Because I want to see those young guys who don't have the means to do so, go out and compete more because they have some good ability. So I'm paying for their dues out of money that comes from different stuff that I do with businesses, right? And again, I've seen so many people who have really good skills, but they don't have good business abilities and they have to close their gyms down. And then their students are running around saying, man, I really love the gym. It was amazing, whatever. Now we don't have a gym to train at. It's a bummer. It's sad. And if they would have run a better business just a little bit, they probably could have kept their gym doors open. But again, to your credit, there is a balance, right? There's a little bit of a middle ground. If you're going to run a gym business, you have to kind of play this balancing act. You don't want to go too far into the business side because then you become just McDojo and you're just hosing people out for money. But you can't go too far on the other side where it's all about just people in a way where you get taken advantage of. And this happened to me a long time ago when I first got into this stuff. I was very much on this end of the spectrum, and so many people took advantage of me, and you know it wasn't good. So you've got to find this middle ground, somewhere in the middle. But again, running a good, successful business doesn't have to be a bad thing. In fact, a lot of times, if someone runs it with integrity, it can be a beautiful thing that can serve the members in a much deeper way and can provide them with more opportunities. But to your credit, as far as holding people back a little bit, I'm sure there are some people that maybe do that for monetary purposes. I'll give you one more story. There was a friend of mine who was a brown belt at a gym who was held back from getting his black belt, and it was more of an insecurity issue from the coach, because he found out later on that the coach didn't want to have another black belt on the mats with him, where then it could possibly sort of usurp his authority, right? He wanted to be the black belt and then whatever, like everybody else is just under him. And so he never promoted him, so he eventually left. But it wasn't necessarily about money, because at the time he was working for him, but it was more of an insecurity issue. So again, that's kind of a thing. But I don't know if it's necessarily a monetary thing all the time, more so as maybe a person that's like me, where they're just letting them sort of season at each belt before they move them along to the next one. But I would be curious to see what you guys think. Have you ever been in a situation where you feel like the gym has become like where you're just being hosed out for money, and maybe you got held back for money, or whatever it might be? And if that's the case, put your comments down below. I would be curious to see what you think, or what kind of experiences you guys have had, and I'll take a look at them later on. So Asa, thanks for your comment. Again, we may disagree a little bit, but again, that's all right, right? And appreciate you for the comment. And then guys, let me know what you think below, and I'll talk to you guys next time.